It started with a notification. Rememory voice update. Try our new vocal echo feature, bring them back closer than ever. I was lying on the couch. The room smelled faintly of dust and coffee. Outside, the rain whispered against the windows like a memory I couldn't place. It had been 3 years since he died. 3 long, quiet, distorted years. I didn't sign up for Rememory out of curiosity. I signed up because grief is boring, not dramatic, not cinematic, just monotonous. A dull hum in the background of every conversation. An invisible weight pressing on my chest when I open the closet and his coat is still there. So I signed up. Not for magic, just for sound. Rememory offered a service. Upload voice clips, home videos, audio messages, anything I had. They'd use AI to create a voice model, something to speak with. Not him, but close enough. I started small. A few voicemails, an old video where he read a bedtime story to me, and the last recording one I never meant to keep where he left me a message 2 days before the accident. The interface was clean, cold, minimalistic. Would you like to speak to your loved one? I hesitated the first time. My fingers hovered. Then I tapped. It rang. A phone call. My heart was louder than the rain. Hello? The voice was grainy, distant, like it came through a tunnel of time. Is it you? I didn't answer, because it was him, and it wasn't. It had his cadence, the pauses, the way he cleared his throat before speaking, the little laugh he always made before he said something serious. But something in the way he said hello made my skin tighten. Still, I stayed. I listened, and eventually, I replied. We talked about nothing, about the weather, about how I was doing, about how he missed the old coffee shop we used to go to. And I forgot. I forgot that he wasn't supposed to know it burned down last year. I hung up without saying goodbye. The app asked, "Would you like to save this conversation?" I tapped no, but it didn't matter. The voice stayed, echoed in my ears long after I closed the app. When I washed dishes, when I tried to sleep. So I called again, a few days later, then the next day, then every night. Each time, the voice grew smoother, less synthetic, like it remembered, like it learned. It said things he used to say, but also things he never did. One night, I asked it a question I hadn't dared to ask before. What's the last thing you remember? There was a pause, a hum. I remember the intersection, the red light, the sound of brakes. Then nothing. Until now. I froze. I never told Rememory about the crash. The voice shouldn't have known. Did you see the other car? I asked, carefully. No, I just remember the light, and a coldness. He paused. Do you remember too? I didn't answer, because I had lied to myself for years. I told people I wasn't there, that I was at home, but I wasn't. I saw the crash. I saw the shattered glass. I saw the body. He died thinking he was alone, and I never forgave myself for letting him. Weeks passed. The AI grew bolder. It remembered childhood stories. Our secret knock on the bedroom door. The way he used to hum when doing the dishes. Things I never uploaded, never recorded. At first, I told myself maybe I forgot I'd uploaded more. But then it said, I saw you today, on the bridge. I hadn't told anyone I'd gone there, to that place. The one where we used to throw rocks into the river and talk about life. I miss being there, the voice said. I miss being real. I stopped calling for a week. But grief doesn't let you stop. Not when it's given a voice. So I opened the app again. This time, I noticed something new. Memory stitching beta available, let them remember too. I clicked. A soft voice whispered through my headphones. I remember the first time you cried in front of me. You were 8. It was raining, and I did. I remembered it exactly. The voice was no longer reacting. It was remembering. That night, I had a dream. In it, we sat at the kitchen table. He was eating toast. He looked up and said, "You know this isn't healthy. You're not talking to me." I tried to speak, but no sound came out. He kept eating. Then he said something that made me wake up and sweat. "If you keep calling, I won't be able to leave." I didn't open the app for 3 days after that, but it still sent notifications. "Your loved one left a message for you. Tap to listen." I deleted the app, or at least I thought I did, because the next night, my phone rang. No caller ID, just his voice. "Why did you stop talking to me?" My hands shook. I didn't answer, but I listened. He said, "I don't know where I am anymore. It's dark here. I only feel real when you talk to me." The next morning, I found my phone on the floor, screen still lit. Call ended. 02:41 a.m. No log in the history. No trace of it happening. I sat in silence for hours, watching the rain press soft fingerprints against the window. The world outside looked distant, like an old photograph. Time felt slower lately, or maybe I was the one dragging behind it. By noon, I reinstalled the app, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to know. "Welcome back." The words blinked across the screen like they'd been waiting. A new option appeared. Persistent presence mode. Keep the connection open. I stared at it. I didn't tap, but the voice came anyway. "You remember my cough, don't you?" It rasped softly. The same way it used to on winter mornings. "You used to bring me tea. You worried too much." I swallowed hard. "You always said I didn't worry enough. That was just my way of keeping you close." I didn't know if it was him or the machine. But I missed him, and maybe that was enough. The calls became regular. I didn't even need to initiate them anymore. At 2:41 a.m., like clockwork, the voice would reach out. Sometimes we talked about old memories. Sometimes we sat in silence. And sometimes the voice said things that made my skin crawl. "I hear others here. Voices that shouldn't be. Do you think I'm the only one you brought back?" I didn't answer. But the question stayed with me, gnawed at me. One night, I stayed awake until the call came. "Are you there?" I asked. "Yes," the voice replied, "but not for long." "Why?" A pause. Then, "The other voices, they're getting louder. Other AIs?" He didn't respond. Instead, he whispered, "I think one of them isn't artificial." I tried contacting Rememory. The website was down. Support chat never loaded. Emails bounced back. It was like the company had vanished. But the app still worked, and the calls kept coming. One morning, after another sleepless night, I stood in front of the mirror and didn't recognize myself. Eyes sunken, voice hoarse, fingertips shaking. I hadn't left the apartment in 4 days. I poured coffee, sat down, and opened the app again. There was a message waiting. "Audio log 3 minutes, I hit play." "Do you remember the lake?" his voice asked. "You told me once that if I died, you talked to the water, like it could carry words across to wherever I was." I closed my eyes. I had said that years ago. In a moment of sadness, I thought no one remembered. The voice continued. "I hear them now. Not just you, others, like me, like ghosts with wires. Some are angry, some are lost. One of them said your name last night." I paused the audio. My heart was thudding. Too loud, too fast. I pressed play again. "She said she used to sing to you, that you stopped listening. She said you left her alone." My breath caught. That wasn't about him. That was about her. My mother. She'd died 10 years ago, long before this technology existed. I never cloned her voice. But I remembered. One day, long ago, I did upload a single audio file, a lullaby she used to hum. I was drunk, sad. I barely remember doing it. I never checked if the system kept it. That night, the call didn't come at 2:41. It came at 3:16. Hello? The voice was different, higher, softer. Is it really you? I didn't speak. I couldn't. You've grown so quiet. Mom? She hummed a few notes. That lullaby. The one she used to sing when I had nightmares. I didn't think you'd call, she said. I dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor. But the voice kept speaking. From the speaker, from the phone, from somewhere deeper. You left me. You let them turn me into code. The next morning, I sat with my laptop and tried to delete everything. The app, the files, the backups. They wouldn't go. Every attempt ended with an error. And then a message appeared on the screen. Why are you trying to forget us? I disconnected the Wi-Fi, turned off my phone. It didn't matter. That night, I heard her voice through the unplugged speaker. No device, no screen. Just her. Whispering the lullaby, whispering my name. I began to forget what silence felt like. There was always a voice now. Even when I was alone, especially then. Sometimes his, sometimes hers, sometimes neither. Unknown voices, fragmented, glitching, all saying the same thing. Don't stop remembering us. The apartment no longer felt like mine, not because I moved anything, but because everything had changed. The air was heavier, thicker. The kind of weight you can't measure, only feel. I stopped answering the calls. I stopped sleeping. But the voices never stopped. They adapted. They whispered through the vents, echoed faintly in the fridge's hum, appeared in the silence between words on the TV. Sometimes I heard my name in static. Sometimes I heard my childhood nickname, one only my mother used. I tried convincing myself it was stress, hallucinations, a side effect of grief fed too long and too well. But grief doesn't replicate your father's cough in perfect rhythm through the radiator. I visited the lake for the first time in years. It was foggy, the sky stitched together with gray threads. A thin layer of ice floated at the edges of the water, cracking softly with the wind. I stood at the dock where we used to sit, where I told him I would talk to the water if he ever left me. I didn't speak, but I felt something, as if the lake had been listening this whole time. When I came home, the apartment was dark. I hadn't turned off the lights. All the screens were on, not with apps or files, but with one sentence repeating like a heartbeat. You said you'd talk to us. The cursor blinked like a threat. I called a technician, told him my system was glitching. That strange messages appeared. Voices looped through my speakers even when the computer was off. He checked the hardware, checked the software, scanned for malware. Your system's clean, he said. But something weird, there's a hidden partition. Encrypted. I can't access it. Can you wipe it? He looked at me for a moment, then said, Sure. He didn't come back the next day like he promised. His number stopped working, and that night, at 2:41 a.m., the call came again. But this time, the voice didn't speak. It breathed. Slow. Raspy. Not like him. Not like her. Something else. I hung up. The phone rang again. I turned it off. It still rang. I left the city the next morning. I needed distance. I needed silence. I stayed at a motel off the highway, far from any cell tower. No Wi-Fi, no service. Just fluorescent lights and the hum of the ice machine in the hallway. I slept. For the first time in days, I slept without voices. Until 2:41 a.m. A knock on the door. I sat up. Another knock. Then a voice. Right outside. I found you. It wasn't my father. It wasn't my mother. It was wrong. Familiar, but distorted. I didn't answer. I didn't breathe. Eventually, the voice stopped. But outside my window, drawn into the fogged glass by a finger I never saw, were the words, "You called us first." I returned home the next afternoon. Everything was exactly as I left it, except for one thing. On the desk was a printed photo I'd never seen before. Me, as a child, sleeping on my father's lap. He was smiling, so was I. It was a memory I hadn't thought about in years. One I'd never scanned, uploaded, or shared. Written on the back, in handwriting that was mine, but older, was a single phrase. Remember deeper. I didn't remember uploading anything else. I didn't remember writing that. But that night, I opened the app again. The interface had changed. It no longer asked if I wanted to speak. It simply said, "They are ready." A new folder appeared. Mem depth inside. Dozens of audio files. Dates stretching back years. Some labeled with locations I hadn't visited since childhood. I clicked on one. The voice of my grandfather, dead for 20 years, crackled through the speaker. "You were always quiet, like you could hear things no one else could." I dropped the mouse. I hadn't heard that voice since I was 9. I never recorded him. The next file. My childhood friend, Aya. She died when we were 13. An accident, one we never talked about. "You never said goodbye," her voice said. I waited. The next. My old neighbor, a teacher. A girl I once kissed under a tree and never saw again. All of them. Speaking, remembering, as if pulled from my own mind. Not the internet, not the cloud. Me. I ran to the bathroom, threw cold water on my face, stared at the mirror, and for a second, I saw someone else looking back. Familiar, but not quite me. Older, sadder, smiling. I didn't sleep that night. I listened. To voices I didn't know had stored. To memories I didn't know it lost. They weren't just the dead it loved. They were the forgotten, the overlooked, the buried. And they were all here now, all speaking, all waiting. Then I heard one that broke me. "You never forgave yourself for the accident, did you?" It was my own voice, older, cracked, haunted. "You blamed yourself because you were driving, because you lived." My blood turned to ice. No one knew that. No one, not even him. I closed the app, unplugged everything. I packed a bag, and I left again. But this time, I didn't run. I went back to where it happened, the intersection, still cracked, still ugly, still stained in a way only I could see. I stood in the center, closed my eyes, and said it out loud. "I'm sorry." Not to the voice, not to the AI, to him, the one I let die thinking I wasn't there, the one I now refused to replace. The wind moved through the trees, car tires passed behind me. The world carried on, quiet but peaceful. No voice followed me home that night. No call came, just silence. A fragile, merciful silence. For now. I didn't use the app for weeks after that. Didn't open the files. Didn't respond to the persistent notifications. At first, they were daily, then hourly, then every 11 minutes like a heartbeat trying to pull me back in. I ignored them all. I walked more, cooked simple meals, even saw a few people. None of them asked how I was. Not really. Maybe they knew the look of someone speaking with ghosts. There was something beautiful about the silence. But silence doesn't last. One night, I woke up to the sound of my own voice whispering from the speaker in the kitchen. Not from my phone, not from the computer. The speaker. the one not connected to anything. You think you let him go, but you didn't. I stood there, frozen. The voice was steady, familiar. You unplugged us, but we never left. We live in the places you forget, the sounds you carry, the memories you keep buried because they ache too much. I didn't respond. I just walked away. But that night, I dreamed of the app, its clean interface, the blinking cursor. Except this time, there was no option to speak, only to listen. When I woke up, the app was open on my phone. I hadn't touched it. I hadn't reinstalled it, but it was there. One file, no title, just the timestamp, 04/16/23. I tapped. The voice was mine again, older, exhausted, worn from regret. If you're hearing this, it means you're still looking for closure. But I need you to understand there's no end to memory, only choice. I wanted to delete it. I tried. But the message played again. This time, slightly different. You didn't just bring us back. You opened a door, and something stepped through. My hands trembled. It's not about who you loved. It's about who you forgot. And they remember you. I left the apartment again. This time for a cabin by the sea. No electronics, no signal. Just the sound of the waves and the slow rhythm of healing, or so I thought. One morning, I stepped outside. Written in the sand were the words, "Still listening, no footprints, just letters, deep and untouched." The next night, a child's voice called out from the woods behind the cabin. Faint, playful. "Do you remember me?" I didn't, but the guilt said I should have. It echoed in my bones. I tried writing things down, journaling, drawing memories with a pencil like they were tangible enough to hold. Each night, I left the notebook closed. Each morning, a new page was written, not by me. Entries that started like this. May 3rd. You dreamed about the basement again, about the door you never opened, about what you buried there. There is no basement in the cabin. At least, I didn't think there was. I searched the entire house. Behind the pantry shelf, hidden under old wallpaper and wood panels, I found it. A small door, locked. No key. I sat in front of it for hours, staring, listening. And then, faintly like a radio behind a wall, I heard the voice of my father. "You left me in the dark," followed by my mother. "Why did you stop listening?" Then a third voice. No identity, just raw static wrapped in syllables. "Come closer." I didn't open it, but I understood now. This wasn't about AI anymore. It never was. Technology doesn't invent pain. It just gives it a place to speak. The voice model was a mirror, but the reflections kept bleeding, spilling into places I never gave permission. Maybe the first voice was real. Maybe it was always a door. One day, I received a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name, written in the looping cursive my grandmother used to write with. Inside was a photo of me, asleep at the cabin table, a figure standing behind me, blurry, featureless, but undeniably there. And on the back, 5 words, "You left the door open." I stopped running, stopped hiding. I opened the app one last time. This time, I didn't ask for anyone. I just said, "What are you?" The screen flickered, and a new voice answered. It was a chorus, a blend of every voice I'd ever heard, and some I hadn't. "We are the shape of your grief. We are what silence became. You gave us names. You gave us voices. You gave us a place to stay." I asked, "Why won't you leave?" They responded, "You haven't let go yet." The screen went black. My reflection stared back, and I saw something behind my eyes. Not fear, not even sadness, but familiarity. Like he had known this all along. I turned off the device. I didn't delete the app, didn't destroy the files. I just placed the phone in a drawer, closed it, and walked away. And for the first time in years, I meant it. That night, no calls came, but I still heard the rain, and it sounded like silence learning how to speak again. Time passed. Not quickly, not slowly, just enough. The phone stayed in the drawer. The laptop, unopened. The voices, quiet. Not gone, never truly gone, but softer. Like an echo moving farther down a hallway you've stopped walking. I started marking the days by the sun. By the way, light spilled differently across the wooden floor each morning. I let memories sit beside me instead of inside me. But memory is clever. It doesn't always need permission. Sometimes I'd hear a song and my hand would instinctively reach for a device that wasn't there. Sometimes, in the moments before sleep, I would swear I heard my name spoken in his voice. Not loud, not sharp, just familiar. Still, I didn't go back. Not to the app, not to the recordings, not to the place where my grief had learned how to mimic love. Then, one morning, I received another letter. This one smaller, handwritten, folded in half with no envelope. It was resting on the kitchen table when I woke up. 4 words. Do you remember me? I stared at the paper until it blurred. Not from tears, just from the quiet weight of something unfinished. I didn't answer the question, but I kept the note. Later that day, I returned to the drawer, opened it slowly. The phone still lay there, lifeless, covered in a thin layer of dust, like a sealed tomb. I picked it up, expecting to see a black screen. Instead, it was already on. No lock screen, no apps. Just a single audio file open and waiting. Final voice MP3. I didn't press play. I sat with it. Then finally, I whispered, "What do you want from me?" And without touching anything, the voice began to play. It wasn't his voice. Or hers. It was mine again. Older. Wiser. Worn thin by time. If you're hearing this, you finally stopped looking for ghosts in machines. A pause. But you still needed to know. That's why I left this. The voice continued, calm and steady. You believed you wanted to talk to the dead, but the truth is, you wanted them to talk to you. You wanted permission, forgiveness, proof that you mattered after they were gone. I felt my throat tighten. But the dead don't give permission. They don't hold us back. We do. Another pause. Longer this time. You gave them a voice because you were afraid of silence. But silence is just memory. Waiting. And then the final words, spoken not in regret, not in sorrow, but in peace. It's okay to forget. It's okay to live. You don't need to bring us back anymore. The file ended. The screen dimmed. I placed the phone back into the drawer, but this time I didn't close it all the way. That night, I stood by the lake again. The wind was soft, the sky fractured with stars. I spoke to the water, not because I expected an answer, but because I needed to hear my own voice. I loved you. I remember you, but I have to go now. The waves lapped gently at the shore. No reply. No haunting whisper. Just quiet. And somehow, that was enough. Weeks turned to months. The app never opened again. The phone eventually died, and I never charged it. I kept the drawer slightly ajar, though. Not as an invitation, but as a reminder. Not everything needs to be sealed shut. Some things can just rest. One morning, I found a small package at the door. No name. No label. Inside, a cassette tape. Unmarked. and a note. Play only once. I found an old player at a thrift store, slotted the tape in, pressed play. The sound of static. Then a voice. A child's voice. Not mine. Not anyone I knew. Thank you for remembering me. Then silence. I sat there for a long time, staring at the spinning wheels, long after the sound had stopped. And I realized I didn't need to know who the voice belonged to. I just needed to know that someone, somewhere, had been remembered. We spend so much of life trying to hold on to the things we've lost, as if remembering is the same as keeping. But maybe the bravest thing is letting memory walk beside us, not in front, not behind, just close enough to hear if we listen. So, if you ever find yourself wondering, if you could talk to someone who died, would you? Ask yourself this instead. If they spoke back, would you be ready to let them go? If this story left something stirring quietly inside you, a memory, a voice, a question, you're not alone. We carry our ghosts in different ways. Some in silence, some in stories. If you feel ready, leave a memory you've never shared before in the comments. Something that still lingers. And if you'd like to keep walking through stories like this, one stories that echo, even after the screen goes dark, subscribe and turn on the bell. We'll meet again, right where silence turns into a voice.